So, I'm Julius. I don't know. What intro? What should I do intro? I don't know. Hello, everyone. My name is Julius. My name is PewDiePie. Oh my god, I haven't watched that man in a while. Um, but yeah, welcome to my interview with myself. And today I want to talk about being 21. I plan to do this interview like before my birthday, April 10th. Keep that in your calendar. Um, but I just got too busy. Life, student committees, student government, work. It sound like a fucking. It sound like a millennial or something. I don't know. But yeah. So my first question for myself was, what does age mean to you? And the things I wrote down were consent, drinking, access, countries, independence, and responsibility. And so let's go down that list, shall we? Honestly, I don't even know if it's a good idea to go down the list. But the reason I wrote consent was, I think the ethics and like morality of age has always been a really fascinating thing, right? We have these limits of like what's an appropriate age for intercourse, for drinking, for drugs, and a lot of the time it feels pretty arbitrary. If you, I need to look. I would probably um, I probably learn a lot from looking into like indigenous tribes and seeing how they may or may not apply these age limits to certain things, right? Because I remember biologically we only used to survive till 20. So the age of consent doesn't really make sense when it comes to a survival standpoint. Um, and so it's like this mesh of culture, biology, um, and nature, right? I'm a big nature versus nurture guy. I'm basically a nurture guy. And so sometimes it's like it's hard to not think binarily. So I think for a period of time I was thinking like, what's the evolutionary purpose for like consciousness and hence all of this like technological advancement and all that kind of stuff, right? And it's like I don't think it's supposed to make sense. It just is, and so like with that, paradoxically, it makes sense because it just is, right? It's not supposed to make some like intuitive sense. It just simply is how it is, right? Um, it's not. I think. Oh, like someone might make the assumption that the most intelligent species would go on to procreate more and survive species battle, but I remember, I think, reading this from Sapiens was that it was the group that was more collaborative that came up on top. And so, what does coming up on top really mean? It just means like surviving and having the rights to procreate. Right? Maybe it's having the space, having the ability, whatever it is. And so, right, it's I like there's not, for me at least, there's not much use in understanding all this. It's just like interesting. It's fun to talk about, which, having excitement is good. It's good for your brain and all that. But like, what's the application? And maybe I think these days I've been thinking so much about application that I just haven't been like having fun with my life. I've just been thinking like, oh, how do I use this? How do I use that? Right? It's kind of the thing with like hobbies, or people have been talking to how you had to like profit from your hobbies, or else it's like, what's the point of learning them? And I think I've been having this mentality with like almost everything in my life, and it's been making things unnecessarily. I don't think boring's definitely not the right word, but it's the one that I have. Um, it's too utilitarianist, and ironically, like going into that, it makes me feel really dull and hollow. So yeah, it's been a fun journey to just kind of navigate that mental space, um, right? Because I think a pretty knee-jerk reaction to talking about age of consent is like, oh, why are you thinking about that? Like, that's pretty disgusting. But it's like the idea of disgust in itself is it's a construct, it's a construct, um, from social cues, right? And so you're still, if someone follows those norms, then to me it's less so about like intellectuality. It's just like you're following the herd of what should and shouldn't be done. And so there's something that's really fascinating to me about. I was already reading about woman talk, or like what was it? It was like word slut, and it was talking about how women particularly just like share things and they talk over each other, but in the word they used was like it was like a jam session. It was like a jam session basically, but for chit chat. And usually women are more inclined to go like deeper and like more emotional. They'll share like some. I don't. Okay, actually no. I'm not too sure about the one. Another thing I remember was how what do you call that? Like break room talk, and how they use the example of like Donald Trump saying like lewd stuff to Billy Bob. And how like sometimes that's a way of like showing like friendliness, right? It's like, oh, you're saying this kind of vulgar stuff in front of me. That means like there's like this kind of trust, you know. And it also goes on to continue how like this kind of stuff kind of allows, or it makes the dehumanization, objectification of others, since we are talking about lewd stuff, here a lot easier, and not even easier, or not just easier. It's like it's building this culture around like, oh, this is acceptable. Um, so going back, because I remember I'm going in tangents right now, but like for schools like Yale and whatnot, like they don't care about what's right or wrong, because like from a moral relativity, like there is no right or wrong. And it's like in general, if you go into any sort of general thinking, right or wrong like does nothing for you, right? This is right, this is wrong. And it's like, yeah, it's helpful to have like a moral compass, I guess, but at the same time, um capitalism has just, I don't know. It's like it kind of sounds like capitalist realism or something right now, which I this is not what I'm trying to pertain to. It's more like this just there is no right or wrong, right? People, animals eat each other, they kill each other, they do whatever, and it's like this idea of right or wrong is often more for control, and it's great for authoritarian societies, which is something that I think most people don't want, right? I'm not saying there aren't people who want it. I think there can be benefits to any kind of society, but it's just like the reason why people will prefer democracy over something that's highly efficient is that the the I guess the idea of exploitation, or like the magnitude of exploitation, is a lot lower, right? I like, at least there's a facade of of like self control, and I guess like in a decent amount of ways, like yeah, the people do have a lot more power, but it's just because like yeah, now the people have power. So what? I mean, it's always been like the the quote unquote common people versus the elite because they will always have the resources, and so that's why you need revolutions and all that sort of stuff. But ultimately, like power will still condense into one single area, right? It's like how um, like airflow, thermodynamics, that kind of stuff, right? Like power, heat will condense. I think that might be all false. um, but yeah, I think that kind of goes over like what does age like it's a social construct. It's a number, um, and it's useful. If I could go into really, I wouldn't even say dark territory, but like I guess socially dark territory of like we all know, well, like, we all know what I'm trying to talk about, like the recent Epstein case and everything, right? And I think if you asked me maybe in a few months ago, I'd say like a lot of it's like an emotional reaction, but it's like just because it's emotional doesn't mean it's valid. Um, um, right? Because this emotional outreach towards the things that have been happening it's an evolutionary trait, right? If we didn't have this kind of outreach towards something like that, I don't know. Maybe your children will be too hurt. Maybe because it's like this. It's the intersectionality of like we've developed a culture around religion, and so our religion teaches us these kind of things about like what's right or what's wrong, and like you see how this right or wrong thing gets so confusing when it comes to someone with a relativist view. It's like, oh, what's wrong with killing? What's wrong with whatever abduction? What let's say, right? Let's go a little extreme. Um, and for me, it's just like it's not about right or wrong. It's just like I don't want to do that, dude. And it's like I don't want other people to be have that thing done onto them. And is it out of empathy? Maybe. Right, and so like this empathy thing is like pretty interesting, right? Why do we develop empathy? Is it good for our species? Is it good for our mental health? See, because mental health is something that can be managed, right? Why do we have medication? It's not just for ourselves; it's for the whole society. If an entire society isn't medicated, it's harder to control, right? That's why you want medication as a government, as a country, right? But as individuals, sometimes you don't know what's really needed isn't the medication. It's a new society. Right? It's a different society with different culture. Um, but yeah, that's I guess that's that. I guess in the social context, being 21 means it's a lot more independence. It means I'm allowed to go to bars, um, buy alcohol, which I have not done because I've just been worried about my money. Man, money is annoying. I should sell stuff, huh? I don't want to. I should. And it's like it's something that I don't know makes me uncomfortable now. I mean, I've always been uncomfortable with selling stuff. It's like I don't know. I don't know. See, I think it's the in a way it's like a loss aversion, but also just like because I don't understand it, I don't do it. And then that's a big problem that I have is I want to understand things before I do them, and it I lose out on a lot of opportunities or a lot of learning because of that. And so, yeah, I think that's it for now. It's I think being 21 also means like it's a lot of access to different like rooms of people because when you're before like below that you're just like oh you're a minor, but then again it's like people like fake their ages a lot of the time, right? these frat houses and whatnot, and like in the I have friends in that like age range and like minors, and I worry about them. Like, what are you like? I think not even like a few days ago, someone was saying like, "I want to go to a frat party," and it's like, yeah, and then I'm getting assaulted. It's like, cool, um, but it's like we develop these kind of ideas of like what a frat is and whatnot because of these like stereotypes and whatnot, and I don't know. A part of it's like, yeah, you want to protect the people you care about, but at the same time, like, what are you protecting them from other people? It's yeah, and it's like I think the reason why moral relativism isn't as popular or widespread is just how confusing it can be because it just tells you that things are as they are, kinda. But I guess you can't. Can you be a full on relativist? Maybe you can hold on to the idea, but like you don't like live in the world as it is, right? People die and you react to it, but could you kind of not socialize, but could you convince yourself that things don't matter? And I think that's something that's worth observing. I think this is done on children a lot, right? Where you look at your kid, you put kids, and like the monkey experiment and whatnot. That's all. Um, yeah, I'm still. Because these days, I mean, I'm still right now. I'm looking at it as like, is this useful for me? Um, and I think maybe it's time to change that because it's not been the most useful thing. I've been too obsessed with utility. And it's maybe like bored. It's I don't know, because sometimes you gotta do things that like don't seem useful on the surface, right? It's like you never know，山羊是什么颜色飞虎，然后这根本就不是诗嘛，不是嘛，而是说 it's like you don't know until you do it, right? And yeah, that's it. That's really it. What's a good question for myself is my goals for 21. And so my thing that I wrote down was that why 21, right? Like I think it's good to like look into the future and see like what would I aspire to be, because those aspirations tell us about like what we've been socialized to want. But also like long-term goals have never really worked for me. I've said, and like sure, it could be that I like the goal setting process hasn't been optimal or whatever, right? But it's just that I think with my what do you call that? My my brain, how my brain works, make it easier. I tend to live in the present a lot more than think about what's in the future. And maybe I've been saying that if I like put my goals on a whiteboard that I can like look at as soon as I wake up, or maybe even have someone like tell me those goals, it would I would do them because I'm constantly reminded of those goals, right? And I think, yeah, that would help because it grounds me, right? I think that's why grounding is really important. It's not just from a like, oh, you got a lot of power and now you gotta like ground yourself into like what common society is. It's more about like, well, what do you want, right? Now that you have these things, what else do you want, right? And for me, it's been like, I went from someone who was very isolated and very just very lost into someone who got to meet people and talk to people and kind of develop a better sense of self, if that makes sense. And then after a while of that, I was just like, I don't know. I hyperfixate really easily, and so like I just go through stages of like whatever depression, happiness, fucking lust, love, whatever, really quickly. And so, but yeah, it comes back to like it's like that's why long term goals only work because I'll just be hyper fixated on a certain thing. And like sure, maybe I can hyper fixate on long term goals, but it's like I don't know. Sometimes talking about it is like an excuse, right? Like, oh, I can't do this. It's like time that you've been saying that you can't do this is mental energy and time that you could have used to work towards the thing that you say you can't do. But you could also say that that just like is further evidence that yeah you can't do it because you rather spend time talking about the thing you can't do than doing it, right? And so I haven't even like been like aware about this, but I don't think I've been saying can't. I really tend to avoid the word can't. I just say like I don't want to, right? Because it's like yeah you can do anything, but it's like I don't want to. I don't want to. But I think in general, for my life, I want to like be present, and I in a way you're always being present. It's just like in what way, right? And so even that is like there's so much I love to talk about these kind of things because it's like the idea of what is like good living, bad living is it controls us. But yeah, I wrote down make change every single moment, and I don't know, maybe that's a very high standard, but it's like I am making change. I'm putting vibrations in the air, and I'm vibrating my body. There's millions of organisms in my body, right? It's always changing, and so it's like, what kind of change do you want? Becoming someone that you want to be. And I wrote down how having too many identities minimizes the opportunity to get into flow state, and I think that's a pretty relevant observation for me. And I think people similar to me is that I know that for me, I'll like switch identities. Like, oh, I'm a guitarist, I'm a singer, I'm a academic, I'm a poli sci, whatever, right? And I've never really stuck to one. And sure, jack of all trades is better than master of one. Um, but also, like it's hard to like produce things when you're not focused on one thing. At least for me, it's been that way. And even when I do focus on one thing, like I don't even know if I like results of that. But yeah, it's a lot of navigating, and for me, it's been like months. Honestly, it's been years. I've been telling myself like it's you just do it. And the thing is, that even when I'm doing it, it's like, but then I do it and like I'm confused, and like I guess I've really dreaded that state of confusion, and maybe that's what's really been stopping me. And I think that dread of confusion is like shame of like, oh, why am I confused, right? And maybe my environment wasn't the best for me to experiment with that confusion, because I think I tied it into like my social identity and like this person's stupid because he's confused. Maybe I had ideas at the time. So yeah, action. Take action. Take a lot more action, and like don't be less afraid of the social norms. Final thing, last question is, what do I look forward to? And I wrote down music, people, education, and learning. And for the past few years, I've been telling people that my passion is people, and genuinely, it is my biggest passion. Right? People are fascinating, no matter who. Like, genuinely, anyone from any kind of spectrum, right? From a perceived idea of this angel to like an actual demon, right? Which, see, I'm using religious language. But yeah, I think being a social creature myself, of course, like understanding people and like learning more about people as been one of the game changers for me. Um, the one thing that I want to study a lot more is myself, but also I think you learn a lot from studying other people. You learn a lot about yourself from studying other people, because one thing you start off with is that you understand that a lot of your thoughts on other people are simply projections of yourself, right? You think that this person is that, this person is the whatever, and um, one thing that I recommend people to focus on is like, why did you focus on this specific thing? Right? Because people are complex, whether or not we want to admit it. Like, from an understanding point, yeah, you can like think of like all the data points that like conjured this person as to who they are right now, but like like even then, like you can't. Maybe you can. Like, that's the thing about me right now. Is like I feel like anything can be like quantified and analyzed. Um, I just combine my emotional knowledge to, because I think emotional knowledge itself is still like a data point. It's still something that can be analyzed, and I don't really care so much about like an objective truth, but just like something that's worth looking at. Like, there's always going to be bias, and so it's not about objectivity. It's more so about what can I understand about this, right? From my perspective, and maybe help other people understand. Um, yeah, and so yeah, that ties back into like education and learning. Right? I love how education just changes so much, right? Martin Luther King, right? Education is power and whatnot. Ugh. Talk to myself. It's been a while. Yeah. I need to write more and learn to be concise, I guess. But yeah, that's my interview. Let me know what other questions you might have for me. Maybe I'll start doing Q&As, because I love talking to myself. I love y'all.